Hello, I'm Andrew G. Marshall, and I'm going to talk today about an issue that causes a huge amount of heartache in my counselling room, and that's when somebody is torn between their wife and their children and their lover. It seems like an impossible choice. You're damned one way and you're damned the other way. It's really difficult, but I've got some ideas that might help you move forward. I think the most important thing to actually understand is, how did you get here? Because if you can understand how you got into this problem, you've got a very good chance of actually finding a way forward. And the first one of the reasons about why you got here is going to come as a bit of a shock to you. And that's because you're a nice guy. Now, as far as most people are concerned, actually being involved with two women at the same time is the absolute opposite of being a nice guy, and they're right. But you got into this trouble because you are a nice guy. Let me explain how it works. A nice guy wants to make everybody happy. So let's go all the way back to your marriage, and when it was all simple and straightforward. You want to make your wife happy. You want people to like you. So if they say, "Can we go to the coast today with my mother?" you say, "Yes, that would be really nice." If they say to you, "Will you clear out the loft?" you say yes, because you want to please people. And that's brilliant. The problem is, if you spend too long being a people pleaser, you actually don't get any of the things that you want at all, and you begin to feel a bit fed up. But in your head, you say, well, actually, what I want doesn't matter. You downgrade it. If you're slightly upset, you say, oh, I don't need to make a big fuss about this, because actually it's not really a big thing. And slowly but surely in your head, you discount all of your emotions and all of the things you want. It keeps the peace, but actually it makes you miserable. And there's only so long that you can be a people pleaser for, or what I call being in the passive role when it comes to communication, without you getting very fed up. You say, what about me? And often what happens is you then suddenly say, actually what I need is important. And you go off, and unfortunately you end up having an affair. Now, instead of actually thinking with your head, you're now thinking entirely with your heart. You're thinking about, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about my partner? How do I feel about my lover? And so you've gone from head to heart. Now, what I want you to be able to do is combine both the head and the heart. We need both of these things to make what I call a wise decision. And ultimately, you're going to need to make a wise decision. And you do that by not only considering your heart, not only considering your head, but putting the two together. And that's probably not what you've been doing just recently. You've been doing everything from the heart. So, let's move on to my next point, and that's that there are three myths that are actually making it harder for you to use your head. In fact, it's actually closing down your head and making you concentrate entirely on the heart. Remember, for the wise decision, we need to consult both. What are these three myths? Well, let's have a look. The first myth is the kids will get over it. You know, if we split up, there'll be some pain for a short time, but the kids will get over it. Now, there is some truth in that, because children can get over most things. In fact, they have to get over all sorts of painful and difficult things. But it's not just going to be like that. It's more than that sentence. Actually, there's going to be an awful lot of pain. This is going to be the biggest thing that happens to them in their childhood. If you get this wrong, in 20 years' time, your children are going to be sitting in my therapy office talking about this moment. And particularly for girls and adolescent girls who find it almost like a personal affront to them, this is a very big moment. So yes, they will get over it, but it might be with my help in 20 years' time. So think beyond that myth. The next myth that can cloud the whole process of head and heart and making a wise decision is a myth that belongs to our whole society, which is love will save the day. Now, every single pop song is about the glories of love and there ain't no mountain high enough to keep me from you, and that all movies of romantic comedy nature are all about love saving the day, building a bridge, and all of those other things. And in the first flung moments of love, the honeymoon stage, that might actually be true. However, once the honeymoon phase is over, what I call limerence, then you have to deal with reality. And unfortunately, love often won't save the day. If you're with your lover and you want to go out with the children for the day, they often are not going to be very cooperative. Your partner is going to be, or your new partner is going to be actually really fed up that so much of your time is taken up with the children. And at the moment you think love will save the day, but it's much more complicated than that. The myths of love actually can be very, very deceptive. And the third myth that's making actually staying and working on your marriage much harder is the idea that people can't change. I think my whole life has actually been devoted to this idea that people can change. You've changed, you're not the same person you were when you first married. Your partner can change and they can make lasting changes. In fact, I have a book all about it and I'll tell you about that later. But it is really important to remember that people can change, they can make lasting change. And as I said, I have a book that you will find interesting on this subject. It's called Wake Up and Change Your Life. But the book that I'd like you to look at now is to understand more about the myths of love. This book is called What is Love? And it's about 50 different questions about how to find, keep, and rediscover it. And I go through some of the myths of love, and I actually deal with the whole issue of being torn between two lovers. It's a really difficult situation. I would hate to be in that situation myself. I have huge sympathy for you, and I hope that my conversation has come across in a non-judgmental way that's been helpful to you. Good luck.